Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Boyos Discuss, the podcast where we pick a topic and then shoot the shit about it for a while. This week we're wrapping up a review of Shenmue the Animation, with episode 13 of the show, which is just titled Shenmue, so no weird sort of...
Yeah, that one makes sense.
Yeah, and there's a story reason for it. We'll get to that later, but I'm Matthew, and I'm joined by my co-host Ben. How's it going?
Pretty good.
So my original plan for this episode was to basically read through the Crunchyroll descriptions for the previous 12 episodes, basically the two-sentence sort of synopsis that they had, but after sort of taking a look at them, they're a fucking disaster. There's all sorts of, spelling and grammatical errors, and they, I get that they don't want to tell everything that happens in the episode, but they don't do a good job of summing up what happens.
Yeah.
In a sort of brief thing. So we're going to skip that. I made it through, because I sort of, was making edits and stuff, but I got, 4 episodes through, and I was like, I can't do this.
Shame on you, Crunchyroll.
Yeah, and, I almost wonder, I'd have to look at the, the DVR recordings I have for some of the, English dubs that were on Toonami. So maybe they did a better job, since it was on cable, for, the sort of two-sentence synopsis. But, yeah, we're skipping that. I'm saving y'all from having to listen to, a huge recap of that. But, we do have a bit of Shenmue news this week. Jason DeMarco, who is the executive producer of Shenmue the Animation. Basically, he works at Adult Swim. He said in a tweet, I hope you've enjoyed season 1 of Shenmue. Obviously, there's more story to tell, and we hope to tell it. If you want another season, let Crunchyroll know. The show has done well, and we think it deserves a second season, no matter what happens. Thanks for watching. So, we have talked a bit about the show's ratings in the past, just with the sort of limited numbers that we have based on the cable viewings. So it seems that there's, I guess, further confirmation with this tweet that the show has performed pretty well, at least as far as Toonami and Adult Swim are concerned. Now we're really just going to have to see if it's performed well on Crunchyroll in order to get a season 2. So the fans are already sort of mobilizing around, every month they do a tweet-a-thon thing. It used to be the 3rd of every month for Shenmue 3, now it's the 4th of every month. So they're sort of in the process of mobilizing to sort of be like, hey, Crunchyroll.
Yeah, there are dozens of us.
Yeah.
Dozens!
And we want it so bad. But, yeah, so we'll sort of have to wait and see, I guess, on that. My hope is that, the cable viewing sort of will also reflect that in, how well it's done on Crunchyroll, but we'll have to see about that. With the news out of the way, we are going to jump right into the synopsis for this week's episode. So we open up sort of similar to the last few episodes where it's the ending of the previous one. They're just sort of showing you that again. It's Rio, Ren, and Joy sort of bursting through the doors to the rooftop of the Yellowhead building. And Dunyu, he has Wong sort of held hostage. He's holding him over the...
literally held hostage.
Yeah. He's holding him over the edge of the roof. And he's like, yeah, if you fucking interfere with this, I'm going to drop him to his death, basically.
Classic Dunyu.
Yeah, the thick lad. So we have Londi. He's sort of hanging on that helicopter. He actually disembarks from the little ladder from the helicopter, which is a very big deviation from the game where he's just sort of hanging out and watching the fight unfold. He actually gets off the helicopter, and Rio, he's sort of blinded with rage, and he tries throwing attacks
he does
at
the
him.
Fucking Akira, he's like, Tetsuo! Canada! He goes, Landa!
So yeah,
epic.
He tries attacking him, and of course he's completely outmatched because he's sort of so fueled by rage and just his lust for revenge in that moment that he's not really thinking on his toes or sort of remembering everything he's learned throughout the entire anime. And so Londi, he actually the move he uses to knock Rio down is the same one he used at the beginning of the anime to knock him out. So it's yeah, you really
You
haven't
suck.
come as far as you think.
Landy was nice enough to be like, oh, you know.
You're a bit better.
Bit better.
Yeah. So, he's completely outmatched still. After all this sort of happens, Yondazu, he's like, I don't want this fighting going on. I'll tell you what you want to know, Landi. And he tells him that whatever it is he's seeking, he'll find it in Bailu Village. And Landi's like, okay, like, I got this. Like, that's all I needed from you.
I'm kind of curious, like, the way he reacts to hearing Bailu Village isn't like, what's that? Where's that? He's just like, a word, and then jumps on his chopper. So did he already know about Bailu?
That's what I don't know.
I feel like that'd be like the first place to look if you're trying to figure shit out about the mirrors or something.
Yeah, and it's like, since he's older than Rio is, like, you'd have thought, like, and granted, I don't know when Zhao Sunming died in relation to, like, the story. So it's like, for all we know, maybe his dad had been like, yeah, I trained with Iwao back in Bailu Village, you know? So it's like, I don't know enough about that, like, yet. And that may be something we never get any sort of closure on.
I imagine, like, I would have to think he's looking for the Phoenix Mirror.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
So
yeah.
he's like, where's the Phoenix Mirror? Bailu Village. All right. And then he jumps on his chopper and zooms away.
Yeah.
But, like, it just seems weird that he wouldn't, like, start there.
Yeah.
That he knows about the village and everything, but he stopped in Japan, he stopped in Hong Kong, and then he's like, oh, yeah, Bailu Village.
Yeah.
That seems like the place where that would be. Yep. Anyway.
But, so he gets back on the helicopter, and he's just going to sort of watch how things play out on the rooftop now. He's hanging on that precarious rope ladder thing, and it's like, you're up there a long time. Like, that's,
I know.
That's
helicopter fuel ain't
like,
cheap, dog. All right.
There's like two members of the Chiyu men in like black suits who, Donyu's like, what the fuck? Like, you were going to help me take over Hong Kong. And the guys in the black suits are like, hey, this is like your chance to prove that you're worth working with us, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we have, and I guess I didn't mention, when Yondazu tells Landi where Bailu Village is, he's like, let the kid go. And so he, Donyu like throws Wong like 10 feet into the air.
He's all pissed about it.
Yeah.
He's like, I wanted to kill that fucking orphan.
Yeah. So, totally forgot to mention that, but the guys in the black suits, they're like, yeah, if you deal with Rio and his friends, then we'll hold up our end of the deal, basically. And Ren, he sort of saves Rio, but not really, because they end up both getting hit. Like, it's
he gives him a hug.
Yeah.
When Donyu's hitting him in the back.
Yeah. So like he's trying to move him out of the way, but they end up both getting hit into like this fence. And so Ren is like yelling at Rio. He's like, "What the hell, dude? Like, your lust for revenge
you
is
got the big dumb."
Yeah, you got the big dumb right now. You're not you're not paying attention to like the present because you're so focused on revenge. And that sort of echoes what Master Shu Ying had said a few episodes ago, where she's like, "Yeah, you're not paying attention to what's going on. Like, revenge has blinded you."
I get it now.
Yeah, the epiphany. So he's all pissed about that, and he's like, you gotta, like, there's more than just you on the line here. Mm-hmm. And so that sort of snaps Rio out of it, and he brings his focus back on their current predicament. And after that, we finally are getting the fight between Rio and Donyu, and while that's going on, we have Ren fighting off the two black suits from the Chiyu men. He's like, it'll take decades for you to get good enough to be
years
me
before you can catch up to me.
Yeah. So he mops the floor with them, and we have Rio fighting Donyu, and he sort of is having these like flashbacks to all of the lessons that he's learned throughout Hong Kong, as well as Yokosuka. Like, he uses the swallow dive at one point with his fight, where he like sort of jumps on Donyu's arm and then like does the swallow dive.
I like that, like, it referenced the first half of the season, like Yokosuka.
Yeah,
like,
you're seeing
that happened.
Yeah, you're seeing flashbacks to like Master Chen and Guizhang.
Yeah.
Like I agree. I think that was really good sort of connective storytelling.
He remembered the old man in the park who taught him the like palm blaster.
Yeah, the iron palm.
He still never used it once.
He sort of used it against the Heaven's Gang thugs, but like
Did
not
he?
really. Like he didn't hit them with it. That was when he was like, I don't have to fight them. I can just
he just
freak
did
them
that?
out a little bit.
did
And
the
they're
ass
like, oh,
blast
you're a
and then-
weirdo. Like, what are you doing? Oh, no, wait. Are you talking about when he was in Yokosuka?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He never used that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fuck?
Yeah.
They even reference him again. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that man taught me so much. Like that one move I'm never gonna use.
Yeah.
The fuck?
After Rio sort of remembers all the teachings that he had throughout this season of the anime, he's able to sort of get the best of Donyu, and he knocks him
fucks him up.
aside, and he uses the counter elbow assault, which was the move that Shu Ying had sort of taught him, either in the last episode or the previous one. He's able to beat Donyu, and it's this sort of cool moment where they're like flashing on all their eyes before he like connects the blow of the move, and it's
Yeah.
like
I appreciate that he's also like kind of fighting like Londi,
yeah,
where he's like knocking
blocking his
not
attacks
even
and
blocking,
stuff.
but just like redirecting his punches, just like boop, like
Yeah.
makes it look super easy and shit.
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
think it's a cool premise to be like, Rio, you're becoming Londi, you know,
yeah,
you're trying to avenge your father, and by any means necessary, and this and that. So it's like I think that's an interesting path to go down.
one like their scars too.
Yeah, their scars, their
yeah.
fighting styles. Like that's cool.
Yeah. So after that, Donyu gets beaten, and Londi, he's been watching this whole time. He is like, well, shit.
Yeah, just
I'm
admiring.
on peace out now. So he rides off into the distance on his helicopter, and it's like, damn, he got away again.
Classic. He's like the penguin. And just rides away, twirls his mustache.
You win this round. And he rides off on the helicopter. And like, I'm intrigued to see what happens in season 2 if they ever do it, because like this ending is sort of similar to how Shenmue 3 ends, in terms of like you fight Londi and you're very clearly outmatched in Shenmue 3, but they've sort of done that in this.
I kind of like that better. I think it's shitty to just like 2 games build up to a tease of him being like, "Oh, I'm here, but you're too late."
Yeah.
And then 3 games build up to a fight you can't win.
Yeah, and
So
that's-
I like that it's like at the end of the second game.
Yeah, and part of that may be that, like, obviously when they were making Shenmue 2, they didn't know that it was going to be over a decade between games, So it's like, obviously maybe the intention was that, like, they were like, oh, well, you're in, like, 2 years when Shenmue 3 comes out, you'll be able to fight him.
And then Ren comes, he's like, "It'll be years before, it'll be decades before you can release
You
another
suck."
Shenmue game."
But, so after they sort of wrap things up on the rooftop, Ren, Rio, Joy, Wong, and I don't know why I wrote Joy twice. That just confused me.
It's just double joy.
Yeah.
So joyful.
And Zhang, who is the associate from Yondazu, they're in Ren's hideout, and they're talking with Yondazu, and he basically reveals that Londi's real name is Longsun Zhao, and that he's the son of the man that Rio's father supposedly killed.
Yeah, we kind of put that together.
I mean, yeah, but like, I think
When Londi was like, "You know Sun Ming Zhao?"
he's like, that's the
Fuck
name of the man
you.
you killed.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, that's the first time it's explicitly said.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's when Rio sort of is able to put that together. He's like, oh shit.
I think Rio missed a very good opportunity to be like, "How do you know that? What's his face? Yondazu? How do you know that? Tell me everything you know about Londi, since you know his real name and shit. What else do you know?"
But he follows up with that. He's like, I don't know if your dad actually killed him or not. And it's like, oh.
Okay.
So it's like, that's another thing where he's like, well, shit. Like, I've been looking for the truth this whole time, and I thought Yondazu would know, but it's
My
like...
princess is in another castle.
Yeah, basically. So after that, Yondazu, like, Ren is like, okay, like, we don't have any closure on his father, but
Or
the
anything.
Phoenix Mirror, what's the deal with that? Is there money involved? And Yondazu is like, oh yeah, like, if you bring both the Phoenix and Dragon Mirror together, then it forms a key that will unlock the lost treasure that's meant to, like, bring back the Qing dynasty. And it's
Yeah.
like, what the hell?
Right.
Like, it completely sort of comes out of left field, and it's like, this is like
They got the
plot to
ancient
the Mummy
imperial
or
flag
something.
flying in the background.
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think that's definitely what it is. I don't think it's the fucking resurrection of Chi-Yu and shit. I think
mean,
it's
we
just
don't
treasure,
know.
but
We don't know.
You
We
know.
only had 3 games, so we don't know.
All right, you're right.
Yeah, he tells Rio that the answers he's looking for might be in Bailu Village. And so that's where Landi's headed to, so it's sort of a twofer.
But he says to go to like Guilu.
Yeah, Guilin, which is like
that?
a region of China.
Where Bailu Village is in? Oh, okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah, so it's like a state city sort
Gotcha.
of deal. Yeah. But we're like halfway through the episode now, and this is when we finally get the intro song.
That's so weird.
And it's like, I agree, it just like...
It was so weird. Like, if they're gonna put it in, which they shouldn't have even done.
Yeah, I don't think they should have done
But if they're gonna put it in, why there? Do it like where I would have put it is like when Londi comes down, and then Danyu is like,
Yeah, before their fight, before he fights Rio.
Danyu
yeah.
says something. He's like, "Oh, fuck you, kid," and Londi's like, "I got this." Boom, intro song, something like that. Because like when you do the intro song after the resolution, it's just like it's
or
almost like the
big
episode
action
ended.
moment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like what?
It was a weird decision, and I sort of prefer if they had just not had
There were
it
so
in
many
this
other places too. Like even after Ryu gets fucking like hit by Londi, like blasted,
knocked onto
yeah,
the ground,
Do
yeah.
it there.
Yeah.
How about when Londi gets back?
Yeah, well, and like the other sort of like, I mean, it's weird when you're watching a show on cable, like the places where they put commercial breaks, like to get to the first commercial break in the episode took a long time, and I was like sort of surprised because that's sort of unusual with any show on cable.
Yeah.
Like they're like, okay, it's been 10 seconds, time to show you about ShamWow, and it's like, but yeah, it was just like pretty much up until they showed the intro that they finally cut
So
to
weird.
commercials. It was
Because I kept waiting like for the intro. I'd be like, oh, it should have been there, but it's not. I guess they're not doing it. Like, and I can enjoy the episode. And then I sat back and then they finished this part, and it's like, here it is. What?
Yeah, it was jarring. But after we get the intro, we have Rio saying his goodbyes to everyone in Hong Kong. He says goodbye to Joy and Wong.
Again, didn't he already do this?
He didn't say goodbye
When he was
to...
going to like Kowloon, he was like,
I mean, I guess sort of, but like they ended up tagging along anyways, and
right.
like
Well, not Joy and Wong, but like
everyone else.
yeah, Stalin Stash and
Yeah.
everyone at the dojo.
But now it's like official. Like he's going to rural China.
Yeah.
Like, that's not
He's
2 feet away
fucking
like
toast.
Kowloon is, where he can
Apparently
pop in every 5 minutes. But yeah, he says goodbye to Joy and Wong, and Wong is sort of all sad about it, and Joy's like, we'll see him again. Like, well, it's gonna happen. And it's like, I don't know. Like, well, we don't know.
My thirst can't lead me astray.
But after that, Rio says goodbye to Fong Mei and Han Hui, and we sort of get this, I don't know, cute scene where Fong Mei is like, you knew that helping Rio was just really to help Shu Ying, right? And Han Hui's like, stop talking.
He's like, you talk too much.
Yeah. And Han Hui's like, you should say goodbye to the master too. And Rio's like, okay. So he goes inside of Monmo Temple, and he's sort of talking with Shu Ying, and she gives him her half of the yin yang amulet. The other half her brother has, and he's sort of like, yeah, I do understand somewhat where your brother was coming from, and I think you do too. And that sort of is like a big revelation for Shu Ying, since she, I guess, sort of was internalizing that desire for revenge somewhat. But she's like, I vow, basically Rio's like, I vow that I'm not gonna like die in my quest. Like, I'm out for the truth, not to get revenge. And like, I feel like your brother is probably out there alive somewhere too. And that sort of is like a cool moment. And then what I always love, anytime Rio says goodbye to like a master, or like, in the game, it's like the dojo, he always does like that like martial arts bow to them. And it's like, I just love that so fucking much. So yeah, he does that little bow. And then after that, we have like a brief scene where Joy, she's visiting her mother's grave, and we have confirmation that her dad is still alive, which they did not do a good job of
No.
sort of explaining. She sees that there's flowers left at the grave, and she's like, "Oh, I guess Dad."
Oh, that's
came
my
by."
dad.
And it's like, I thought he was dead too. I thought
the
he
fuck?
got blown up also, but that's neat that he's alive, I guess. But she's like, yeah, maybe I should pay my dad a visit. So I guess they haven't really been on good terms since her mom died, is sort of what they're getting at. But yeah, that's it. It was sort of a weird scene. And then after that, we go to Ren and some of the members of the Heavens Gang. They see that Wong has opened up this banana stand. They're like, yeah, he's going on the straight and narrow here. And they're all like, what the hell? Like, how are we going to scam people now? Like, that's
And where's he getting his banana? Who's his supplier?
And I was joking. It's like,
What
it's
income did he
Yandazu.
have to set this up? What bank gave him a loan to begin a banana business? This ain't adding up.
When I was, I think I pointed out to you during the episode, there's an Easter egg of, there's this guy that you, like, one of the jobs you can get in Shenmue 2 is, like, moving crates with this big fat dude named Daylin. And, he has, like, a little brief cameo in that scene with the banana stand where he's just sort of chilling there.
Hanging out. You know.
Yeah, he's just hanging out.
My man's needs his potassium.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're moving boxes all day, like you gotta
You
have.
don't want them Charlie horses.
Exactly. Yeah. So after we get the banana stand scene, we have Ren sort of walking away from them, and he's like, "Hey, Guilin, sounds like a good time."
Oh, Ren.
He wants the money.
You rascally rascal.
Yeah. So immediately after that, we cut to Rio beginning his journey to Bailu Village. He takes a boat to basically, like, I guess the interior part of rural China. And as he's going through the countryside, there's this big thunderstorm that's sort of raging around him, and he's just chilling under this tree. He's like, yeah, I definitely was not prepared for any weather whatsoever. And it's like, oh,
Should have been.
Yeah. He was not a Boy Scout. He was not
Idiot.
prepared.
Yeah.
There you go. But while that storm is raging, he sees this, like, lamb sort of getting swept up in the current of the river. And he's like,
just like, damn, that sucks.
yeah. But then he sees a girl jump in after it, and he's like, fuck.
Are you fucking serious?
He's like, I guess I gotta save her. And so he jumps in after them and manages to save all of them from drowning. He, like, brings them to shore and, like, grabs this like, branch. So after that, he, like, once they're on the shore, he collapses from exhaustion. And while he's unconscious, he sort of has this, like, I don't know, like, weird memory corridor thing where, like, he sees his dad in front of the cherry blossom tree in front of their house, and he sort of is thinking on his teachings, and he's like, I don't know what it was you meant in terms of, like, what I'm lacking, but I'm still gonna keep going after, like, the truth. So from there, we do have a pretty big deviation from the game, and I get why they did this, because, like, we only have 22 minutes to wrap things up. But we skipped pretty much the entirety of the third disc of Shenmue 2.
It's a big skip.
Yeah, and, like, it's a shame because so much of that is, like, you're walking with Shenhua through rural China, like, learning more about each other, and you're sort of almost forming, like, I don't know, like, more backstory for Rio. Like, she's asking you questions, and you choose his response. So, like, she asks, just as an example, she's like, oh, like, tell me about your dad. Like, was he, like, a stern father? You know, like, what are your memories of him? And you have, like, the option of being like, yeah, he was, like, tough but fair, or you could be like, he sort of scared me a little bit. And so we don't really get that sort of, like, I guess, like build up to their friendship, I guess. And we don't get the explanation for why she would jump in after a lamb in the first place.
She just has a big heart.
So in the game, they like sort of elaborate on that, and Bailu in Chinese like roughly translates to like white goat, and like the spirit of their village is like a white goat.
Oh shit.
And so that's why she was like, I had to save
Yeah,
it, like
okay.
because otherwise it's bad fucking
Bad
voodoo.
juju.
Yeah, and so we don't really get that explanation like throughout. I guess her scenes, like we saw her with that little lamb, but it's not
almost like Christian symbology.
a little bit, yeah,
Yeah.
where it's like, I don't know, like if there was a dove or something, you'd be like, yeah. I
Yeah,
I
that
gotta
too, but
save
like
that.
a white, a flawless lamb, you know,
yeah,
that's a thing.
Yeah. But we don't get any of that. We just sort of get like a time skip to Rio waking up in Shenhua's house outside of Bailu Village. And, you know, he wakes up in there and he's like, shit, where am I? And she's like, hey, like you're here at my house. Like I took you back here so that way you could recuperate after saving me and the lamb.
He's like, why are my pants on backwards? She's like, oh,
Don't worry about it.
yeah.
They were wet.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's like, yeah, my name's Shenhua, and we're outside of Bailu Village. And Rio's like, oh shit, and he's like, that's where I was going. And he like knocks open the front door, and he sees the cherry blossom tree. And there's this cool sort of thing where it's like he briefly sees like the image of his father standing in front of the cherry blossom tree at the dojo, and then it like fades into the one outside of Shenhua's house. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Like I really like stuff like that. But after that, he sort of takes notice of that, and Shenhua, she's like, yeah, the tree is called Shenmue, and you know, basically that tree is like
She
really
looked
important.
at the camera.
Yeah, she's like, clap, damn it.
I said it.
But yeah, she's like, you know, this tree is like really important to like my heritage, and I'm actually named after the blossoms on the Shenmue tree, which are called Shenhua. And so after that, they go back inside the house, and Rio is like, do you like live here just on your own? Like, what's the deal? And she's like, yeah, I live here with my dad. My mother's not really around. And Rio notices on this desk a diagram of the Phoenix and Dragon mirror. And, you know, he sort of is like, oh shit. Like, that's what I got. Yeah, he like, his jacket is on the same desk. And so he like pulls the Phoenix mirror out of the pocket of the jacket. And we get like, it's pretty much 1-to-1 with like how they like overlay the diagram with how they show it in the anime, where it's like, they're the same. But yeah, they do that whole thing, and you know,
Shenhua's like, the fuck? Why do you have that?
yeah, she's like, it's made of like Phantom River Stone, which you can only find here. Why do you have this thing? We need to talk to my dad about this, because he'll know more about this since he works in a quarry where they have Phantom River Stone. So from there, they go into the quarry, and she's only ever been outside like the, I guess, little antechamber, whatever you want to call it,
Sure.
like the little entrance to it. She's like, yeah, I'm usually not allowed to go any further. So they call out for her dad. He's not answering, so they're like, we have to go in to figure out what the deal is. They venture deeper into the quarry, and they find a letter from Shenhua's father saying like, I finished my work now, like, you know, the Phoenix is finally done, and it's basically saying like, you need to go and entrust yourself to the one who
I'm just
holds
picking
the
up
Phoenix.
a pack of cigarettes from the 7-Eleven. I'll be
back
home any minute. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, it says that she needs to undergo the trial of proof with the one who bears the Phoenix, and to this day, I don't really know what that's like referring to, if that's them putting the mirror in the thing and making the big ones appear, or if that's something that we haven't seen yet. But yeah, they also see that her father left the Sword of Seven Stars, which is a badass name. I fucking
That is
love
cool,
that.
yeah.
But they don't really do anything.
Alliteration.
Yeah. They don't do anything with it, though, in the anime, which is partially disappointing, but also they sort of are veering away from, like, the more mystical things that happen in the game. Like, in the game, they use the sword to, like, light the way to... or basically, like, they put it in this pedestal, and then they put the Phoenix Mirror in another pedestal, and then that's what...
And then that pedestal goes into another pedestal.
Yeah, there's lots of...
raises up a pedestal.
There's a lot of ins and outs, but...
It's like Nick Cage's national treasure. Fucking the sword looks
God,
like... The sword looks like it's from Soul Calibur. It's got, like,
it's cool.
fins on the side of it.
Yeah.
It's gold and black and, like, crazy looking.
Yeah, well, and, like, it has a sheath. Like, they don't take
Yeah.
it out of that in this, but, yeah, in the game, he uses that in conjunction with the mirror to cause all that,
The
like, beam of
pedestalness.
light to the pedestalness
Yeah.
to make it so the big versions of the Phoenix and Dragon mirror get revealed. But in this, the sword is just kind of there for reasons, I guess.
It's hanging out.
Yeah, it's just chilling. But, yeah, they put the Phoenix mirror inside its little pedestal thing, and we get the big sort of reveal of the huge versions of the Phoenix and Dragon mirror, which was how the series began. Or at
Nailed
least
it.
the anime began. So it's like we've come...
I'm so fucking smart. Go back to the first episode and listen to me. You'll see. I've predicted all this. I'm like Quasimodo.
You're right. I was right. What?
No,
Quasimodo?
it's Nostradamus. Quasimodo's the hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah, he's got his little people up and...
I'm like fucking Nostradamus up in this bitch. There doesn't even need to be another season. I can just tell you what's gonna happen.
Oh, God. All right, tell me how Shenmue ends.
You're not ready.
Right. I'm not ready. Okay.
Turn the mic off.
So, yeah, we've come full circle officially. We do have another slight deviation where, like, in the game, they put the sword in that pedestal, and after we have this big reveal, the sword sort of, like, levitates, and it's like,
The fuck?
like, what's going on here? But, yeah, we don't get levitating sword in this. So, after that, we have Shenhua. She gives the same, basically, prophecy. She's like, yeah, from the east he shall appear, a young man who doesn't know his potential. They go through all that, and then it ends in the classic sort of Shenmue way where she's like, and thus the saga begins.
But not.
And then it flashes to the story goes on.
But it doesn't.
But that's how, like, all the games end, and I love that it's like, like,
I'm disappointed.
in 10 years we'll get season 2. But, well, hopefully not that long. But, yeah, it's just cool that they sort of are calling back to that. Like, I like that as a Shenmue fan.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
So, what did you think of the episode overall? Like,
This was a really good episode.
yeah,
I really liked it.
Yeah, I thought so too. It had good action. I feel like the fights that we got were impactful. And even though, like, the fight with Londi is not something that happens in the game, I think from a storytelling perspective, it's like a worthy sort of, like, deviation.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah. It would have been disappointing, I think, for newcomers especially to not get that sort of, like, closure.
I agree.
Yeah.
And Londi was cool. Like, he's very composed. His design is awesome too. Just like
it's
even
great.
from the games,
Yeah,
like
that's-
the Chinese garb, very put together, the long ponytail.
Yeah.
And he, like, keeps his hands behind his back. He's like a Bond villain.
Yeah.
And it's like,
honestly,
it's awesome.
Yeah.
So he's great. And yeah, no, I was happy with the episode. They did a lot of plot progression and just interesting things were being said where I was always trying to pay attention to what the fuck they were talking about. And like, yeah, his real name is this and his father and this and blah. And it's like a whole like Sozin and Roku storyline going on with like Ryu's
From
dad
Avatar,
and,
for those who aren't aware.
yeah, Avatar: The Last
Airbender.
Airbender.
Yeah.
But it's like Ryu's dad and Londi's dad were friends or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Like in a picture, they're hanging out and being best buddies at Bailu Village, and it's like, the fuck happened?
Yeah.
What's going on?
And
The sins of the fathers. It's it's like, it leaves a lot of threads. Like, it opens up a lot more threads that you didn't know were there, and you're like, ooh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think sort of one thing that I like really that stuck out to me about this episode that I really liked in comparison to how things wrapped up in Yokosuka was that we have this like almost like montage of like okay, like how has Rio affected the people he's met throughout Hong Kong, and we sort of see them like wrapping up their arcs, I guess, respectively. Like we have Joy sort of coming to terms with her mother dying and being like, you know, it's time I need to visit my dad. We have Wong, who is like sort of taking his own fate into his own hands and being like, yeah, I don't need to just live my life stealing and living meal to meal. Like I can run a business, even though we don't know how that all.
I can live on bananas.
Yeah, but and then we have Ren sort of like.
Damani.
Yeah, well, he's at first like hanging out with like his old friends, from the gang, but then his whole sort of like progression as a character has been like growing beyond Hong Kong and like fulfilling his desire for adventure. And so that sort of is him like being like, yeah, I can sort of leave and like follow this through. So it's just really cool stuff like that we did not really get in the like Shenmue 1 portion of the story, where it's just
definitely.
Like here's Mark and everyone and Nozomi
and Goro and they're getting married and moving on.
Yeah.
Guizhang Brook is like, oops.
Yeah.
He's fine. Whatever. Just leave. Start the next episode.
Yeah.
No, this felt very like final and open ended. So
yeah.
It was good.
But so now that we've wrapped up the second game story, how do you think it sort of stacked up in comparison to the first 5 episodes?
It like blew it out of the water. It felt like the first 5 episodes were like a prologue to this.
Yeah, honestly, and that sucks to say because like I'm one of the few I think who prefers the first game to the second game, so it sort of hurts me that they did the first game dirty, a little bit. But I agree. Like I think comparison wise, it's like. They're not even in the same league.
Right.
Like, honestly.
Well, when you take fucking a 5-episode arc compared to an 8-episode arc.
Yeah.
When in the 5-episode arc, 2 of the episodes were hot garbage.
Yeah.
It's like,
But even then, like, I'd say, like, the first 4 episodes in Hong Kong, like, did more for Rio's progression as, like, a character than 5 episodes did.
Yeah, totally.
Through Yokosuka. So, yeah, I agree. Like, I think it was a much stronger thing. So we've officially reached the end of the road with Shenmue the Animation. Sort of overall, do you have any like thoughts on the show? Like, would you recommend it to people who aren't fans of the game?
Yeah. I enjoyed it, and I don't know that much about the games. You pretty much just tell me everything that happens in the games, and I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
But no, it's enjoyable, and it's, just 13 episodes. It's not a huge investment.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you're going to pick up all the shit you need to know, and it's fine. It's well animated, it doesn't look ugly. I liked it.
Yeah, and I'm glad. Like, that was my fear sort of going into this, was that, like, it would not be, I guess, approachable for, like, people who aren't fans of the games already. But that makes me really glad and like really hopeful that other people who maybe are new to the franchise can sort of use this as a jumping off point to get interested in the games, or even if they don't play the first 2, playing Shenmue 3 and sort of giving that a chance and seeing where the story goes and being excited to see where the story goes.
There were no like cringy, annoying characters where I was just like, God, get them off the screen. Which happens sometimes in animes, even when it's a really good one. It's like, oh, if it just didn't have that guy. So there's none of that, which is good. It doesn't really waste time. There's not really filler.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like usually you'd be seeing like, and granted, it's a little different for like, I guess, like things that start off as manga. Like they have to incorporate filler so that way the manga can continue and then they can catch up to whatever the most recent issue is. But with Shenmue, we already know, like the first 3 games worth of story, so we don't really have that, I guess, burden, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so in the event that we do get a second season, what would you sort of like to see them do differently or improve on compared to the first season that we've had.
I think definitely like one-on-one fights is what they need to do now. Instead of trying to be like, oh, he's fighting a gang, have him fight multiple people, because that's just not that interesting. They don't animate it that well. Like, they haven't really done it that well in the show. So like the one-on-one fights are always really good, like him and Dunyu, and even with him and Londi there.
Even with Gui Zhang. That stuff was cool. Yeah.
The masters that teach him and spar with him.
Yeah.
So those are good fighting parts of the show, and that's what they should focus on next. And I don't know, maybe try to pace things better. Like, the pace of an episode is pretty consistent, but like the entire show, it's kind of like full throttle, or we're hanging back and doing slow stuff.
Yeah.
And there's not really an in-between. Like, a build-up to things would be good, but it wasn't like nothing was really drawn out. I think, honestly, like, here's what I'm thinking. Like, if I was Yu Suzuki, I'd fucking swallow my pride. I'd be like, all right, my Shenmue games, I did my best. Shit's not happening.
You're hurting my heart.
I know. I'm
here.
sorry.
This
is medicine.
So bad right
it's
now.
medicine. It doesn't taste good, but it's here to help you.
No, it's not.
So I would go, that's a bust. They're not making money, Oopsie. We should focus completely on the anime. And I as Yu Suzuki would go to the anime makers, and I'd be like, I will work with you, and I will tell you the story beats that you need to keep going with this story past the third game. Here's all my plots. Go to Crunchyroll, tell them that I am on board for this, and that I want my story told. If I can't do it in video games, I'll do it in anime. It's not my first choice.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Suzuki, that you didn't get your games, but fucking just do the anime.
So, like, the only, like, I would prefer that to not ever getting any closure.
And, right, that's what I'm saying.
And so, like,
in a perfect world, we get the games.
Yeah.
But
then the other thing...
Him going, like, there's no plans. Oh, great.
Jumping off of that, like, originally Shenmue was supposed to be, like, 10 chapters or something, or 12 chapters. So, like... what Yu Suzuki has said recently is that he's like, I could have it done, like, the story, because, like, originally that would have been, like, 8 games worth of content or something. But then he sort of, like, redid parts of the story, so now he's like, oh, I could finish it in 2 more games after Shenmue 3. My, I guess, question then is, if the anime has done well, and if they do a season 2... sort of beyond that, since doing the games is so difficult, and sort of getting them off the ground and finding the funding, if we could get, like, the full scope of whatever story he's trying to tell and have, like, more seasons of anime, I would be okay with that.
And that's
if
what I'm
we
saying.
have, like, a more fleshed out story than him making concessions to get it told in 5 games.
And then maybe you could still make the games. Maybe. If they get the money and whatever, everything lines up, you could still make the games. And it could follow that story, and you could have even more, there could still be differences between them, like the games and the anime now.
Yeah.
But, man, it's just like, it's been, 20 years? Over 20 years. I don't think it's happening. I think we've reached past the half. Like, is he even halfway done with his story yet?
I'd have to look it up. I feel like he's talked about that in an interview before. I would have to look into that.
It's just like, I want to see you guys get a conclusion to this.
Yeah.
And I don't see that happening in video games. I want it to. But, like, this guy's got to fucking pick up his fucking feet. How old is he?
He's old.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't know. My hope is that we'll get a 4th game. But, like, at this point, I'm like, I'd take the conclusion in the anime.
Did Yu Suzuki work with them at all in this?
Yes, yeah.
Then fucking send them an email. Be like, we want to make more
here's
seasons.
the ending.
Yeah.
So I don't know, sort of, as far as, like, my thoughts on what we could do in season 2 potentially, since Shenmue 3 is so lean on story, let's say, it would almost, like, lend itself to, because, like, one thing I was thinking throughout this first season was that, like, a lot of the sort of side stories that we skipped over you could easily do as like filler episodes almost. And like you could almost be like, like him thinking back on like different adventures that he had, or like things that happened to him, like, oh, I remember in Yokosuka when I was trying to get the ticket to Hong Kong, and you could do that whole thing
and shit.
in like one
make
episode.
Training arcs last like fucking
13
episodes
so
all
like
the time.
you could do all of that if you sort of wanted to. And
you could do his walk, like let's say they walk back from the quarry to the village, you could do kind of like the walk and the talk.
Yeah, so it's like there's opportunity, I think, to tell those stories in some capacity.
You do 3 consecutive flashback episodes, recap episodes.
What I was more thinking of was like, do you remember the episode of Avatar, Tales from Ba Sing Se?
Yeah.
Where it's like 4 mini sort of stories, all sort of like with a interwoven like narrative between like what were they doing during this time.
Do
and
that
it's
with
like,
the characters.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know, we could do
something back with
like
Yokosuka even.
Yeah.
So that they're not just fucking gone.
Yeah, off the face of the planet.
Evaporated,
yeah. Where we have Guizhang who's like, I'll join you once my leg is healed. It's like, it's been healing a long time. Kind of think you just don't want to go at this point. But are there any sort of final thoughts that you have before we wrap things up? Or
overall, I guess I'd say this show's like above average for me. Like the fights weren't exceptional. The animation never really like blew me away. It wasn't bad. The story was above average. It kept me interested. That was kind of the main reason I kept watching and was invested. So, I mean, props to them for that. It does follow, like, some tropes where the main character is the main character and, just powering up to fight the big villain and blah, blah, blah. But, like, it's hard to escape that stuff. But, it's overall, I'd give it, like a C plus B minus. Right in there.
That's fair.
That's very watchable. Like that is definitely recommend worthy.
Yeah, for sure. There. And that's like I mean, as a Shenmue fan, like obviously it's never gonna live up to like if you're putting 20 plus hours into a game.
Right.
Like it's hard to live up to that. But I feel like as a fan, it checked most of the boxes for me. So that's something to hang your hat on if you're doing like an adaptation of a game, especially like because we've seen countless times like whenever they're like
it's usually just fucking awful.
Yeah, it's
or
usually
they change
shit
shit all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why did you want to do this story if you're changing it for you? It's such a fucking vanity thing, and I despise that.
Yeah.
So no, I think they did a great job.
And they showed overall a lot of like respect to the franchise, which is important. Like, and that's what I think a lot of
the designs were consistent. The moves,
yeah.
The attitude and the themes, even they were a little more altered from like revenge to kind of finding the truth.
But then there was
worked.
some revenge still in there, like sort of interwoven with his growth as a character. But I agree. Like I think that
Ryu definitely is a more interesting character in the anime than in the games.
Yeah, and like I think part of that maybe that you're supposed to fill his shoes, I guess, and you're sort of but that's a debate for another time, I guess. So I figured I'd take this opportunity to thank you for joining me on this podcast, because none of the other boyos, when I was like, I want to review Shenmue the Animation, they were like, no.
Well, I do love hearing myself talk. So no, it's thank you. It was fun to be on this and doing it every week. It was something to do, and it was a good way to spend time. I'm kind of sad that it's over.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you took the time out of your week for 13 weeks to join me on this sort of journey through Shenmue and sort of get an idea for the first 2 games.
I'm glad you put all this together and invited me. So
yeah,
thank you.
So that is going to do it though for this week's episode of the Boyos Discuss and our review of Shenmue the Animation. If you enjoyed the episode and are listening on YouTube, then we'd really appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe to the channel. So right now our plan sort of going forward is we're going to take a bit of a break, like a hiatus, a couple weeks here, and we're going to be back to review Kenobi on Disney+. So we're going to jump back into Star Wars reviews again.
Nice.
And hopefully this time it won't be like Bad Batch where we
Oh my god, I hope
sort
not.
of quit halfway through
Fucking
that.
Christ.
But I mean, we'll see how that all shakes out. So anyways, guys, until next time.